Hey guys, it's Jambros, and I am back with what should be my final loot guide for Phase 3 and 4. This will kind of be the big comparison video comparing how good the contested physical DPS items are for each class and spec. This is a loot prio guide because it's made from math and doesn't take into account your guild's social atmosphere. This is a game about playing with your friends and sharing the items that drop. You don't deserve to have an item just because it may technically be better for you than somebody else. So just remember to have fun and share. Since this covers all the physical classes, I use lots of different sims for this, but they're the same ones I used in my previous loot guides for each respective class. The sim settings and group comp will all be the same too to create an accurate comparison. All encounters are 180 seconds against the high armor boss, humanoid boss, and each class must use all of its cooldowns with all appropriate personal raid and party buffs and debuffs. Just as a reminder, these sims use complete gear sets and don't just sim individual items. When swapping pieces for testing, other item slots may be changed to keep a maximum DPS output, for example, adjusting for hit rating or 2 and 4 piece bonuses. All these sims use full base gear for phase 3 and 4 and compare the best in slot item to the next best item in that slot. What item is considered better for a certain class is ranked by the percent of total DPS gained and not necessarily the raw DPS number. Starting out with the helm slot, there are 2 specs with uncontested gear here. It's still optimal for feral druids to stick with Wolf's Head helm. That plus 10 spirit is really a game changer. Arms warriors want their 4-piece bonus and don't use the helm as their off piece. Everybody else wants the same one other item in this slot, Cursed Vision of Sargeras. Unsurprisingly, Enhanced comes out in top here. Their tier helmet actually has MP5 on it. They're on top by quite a bit here too, with Hunters coming in second. Ret, Rogue, and Fury Warriors are all close enough to not matter too much particularly, as they all have good secondary options. The Choker of Endless Nightmares is probably the more in-demand of the 2 best neck piece options. This item is particularly strong for classes that can use the extra hit rating and benefits from not having any stamina on it. Its stat allotment actually goes into damage-causing stats instead. Rogue comes out on top, notorious for how strong hit rating is on that class. Fury may be better off taking the second option on the next page, as there is a little difference. Ret here is a special case, and I would actually argue they may benefit the most behind Rogues and Enhancement Shaman. The total DPS difference between this, Serrated Blades, and the Phase 2 Pendant of the Perilous is only a few DPS, but this is an excellent hit option for Rets, and opens many other gearing options for them. Choker of Serrated Blades is the non-hit armor pen option, and an obvious best in slot for arms, which comes out far ahead of BM Hunters. This is a full best item for Hunters, but the Endless Nightmares neck is very close, and it really depends on how much hit rating you need at the moment. The shoulder slot is one of the more boring slots in this phase. There are no real good off-piece solutions. Enhance is able to craft their bits from leatherworking, and Rets keep the expertise shoulder from phase 2. As such, the only contested items are tier tokens. These use full item sets and compare them to the second best set, so it's not totally indicative of the strength of the individual item. Here the shoulders come in as more valuable for a rogue than a feral for the Vanquisher token. Both warrior specs and hunters also use the protector token. Hunters and arms warriors will use the 4-piece bonus, so these tier pieces are much more valuable than for Fury. Fury uses these shoulders for the strength of the item itself and not for any set bonuses. Cloaks bring us to our first slot with 3 different uncontested items. Well, more like 2.5, but I'll get to that in a second. Rets use the Agi Haste Cloak from ZA, and Arms Warriors will use the Phase 4 Armor Pen Badge Cloak. Most Ferals will want to stick with the Thalassian Wilder Cloak from Phase 2. There's only one contested cloak, and most physical DPS classes will want it. The Shadow Moon Destroyer's Drape that drops off Terran Gorefiend. If you'll notice just how little of an upgrade this item is for any of the classes. Only 0.2% DPS increase for the best, Fury Warriors. Feral and BM are a bit of anomalies here. Both will probably want to be using the previously mentioned Thalassian Wilder Cloak that dropped off Kel'Thas. The difference is only a couple DPS, and you would simply switch if you want to add or drop hit. Every BIS chest piece is technically a contested item. The stronger Vanquisher option here is for rogues. Ferals would use the tier 4 2-piece with chest and shoulder typically, until you can require the 4-piece tier 6. Same story with the protector token on the chest as it was with the shoulders. BM and arms will use the 4-piece bonus. Fury will not, but if the token is unneeded, then it's a good upgrade as long as you haven't gotten this. The Midnight chest card from Archimon to Mount Hyjal. Technically best over the tier piece, but only by 0.11% DPS. This is a much bigger upgrade for your Enhancement Shaman at 0.49% DPS, and a solid option for your Ret too. The wrist slot features a couple uncontested items that are both very easy to acquire. The Eternium Rage Shackles are bought with badges for Arm Warriors, and Rets use these not very expensive BOE crafted bracers. The Insidious bands are preferred by rogues, cats, and hunters, with rogues coming out on top at 0.32%. The only real anomaly here are the ferals, and depending on who you ask, they may not consider these BIS. They'd say the Vindicator's Dragonhide bracers. When simming different gear combinations, I was able to get Insidious bands above them in a totally best in slot configuration. If you're not completely decked out, the PvP honor bracers are probably better for you. The Deadly Cuffs are preferred by Fury Warriors and Enhancement Shaman. The cuffs are clear upgrades over Insidious for Fury, but Enhance is only 0.02% of an upgrade. The difference is very minor between these, the previous bracers and the crafted Lightning Reflex bracers. Another main set slot, and the gloves are pretty boring. 3 classes have uncontested pieces. Your raid isn't going to need too many of any of these items. Feral overtakes combat in the value of main set pieces here. Not many other good options combined with a 4-piece bonus brings us up to a pretty huge 2.99% upgrade over any alternatives. Fortunately, Vanquisher isn't a very used token, so these should be pretty easy to acquire. BM is far ahead on Protector token value because ARMS has very good off-piece options like the Grips of Silent Justice. Even including 4-piece, these are only 0.46% compared to 2.5% for Hunters. And there is only one uncontested from Phase 3 and 4 for the waist slot, and that's the Don Alejandro's Money Belt for Hunters. Every other spec wants this. The Belt of 100S. A drop from Vash in Phase 2 and very sought after. Here's how it measures up at the end of Phase 4. While excellent for everybody, it gives the most value for the 2-hand weapon classes, Ret and Arms, at 1.38% and 1.19% respectively. Combat, Enhance, and Fury are all relatively close, with Feral being the farthest behind. It's about 0.25% above the Money Belt. There's one uncontested item for the legs, a tier piece actually for Hunters. Warriors like the off pieces in this slot. Feral leads here on the Vanquisher token for the second time. Rogue and Feral 4 pieces are both high value, so it's really pick and choose on who it's technically better for. These should be easy to acquire items either way. The Bow Stitch leggings for Asgul are ideal for Ret and Enhance. The difference is very minor though, 0.48 versus 0.43. The leggings of Divine Retribution are huge. A great item and a perfect off-piece for both Arms and Fury Warriors. I mean, look at all that armor pen. Arms pulls ahead in value as the offset item from the 4-piece with 1.23%, and is still very good for Fury at 0.96%. Moving to the boot slot brings us to one of the most contested items of the tier. Technically best for 6 of the 7 specs, while the total percent damage gain on these over the next best alternatives tend to be minor, they gain the most values on Hunters at 0.34%. Probably the lowest values on these are for Feral Druids, Rogues, and Enhance. Feral and Rogue second best are Badge Boots, and Enhance next best are the otherwise uncontested Soft Step Boots of Tracking. The Dread Boots are the other option for plate classes. Most would probably tell you they were best for Arms, but I found that not so. They're a tiny bit behind Shadowmasters. Arms Warriors typically already suffer from a glut of hit rating. It's clearly best for Fury Warriors who can actually make use of that hit rating. There are a few uncontested ring drops that would be considered BIS or a side grade in total BIS, the Aggressor's Ring for Feral and the Band of Devastation for Rets. There will only be 2 rings compared, but all the other rings that would be used are all gained personally. Reputation items, for example, such as the Hyjal Rep Ring. And the much sought after Storm Rage Signet Ring. Consideration for every spec except for Ret. If you'll notice, I actually found a couple higher DPS configurations by dropping the hit from this ring for BM and Feral, making this relatively low value for them, especially considering how massive this is for some specs. Arms gets an incredible 1.02% just from a ring slot. While that may be the top slot, it's still very significant for Combat, Fury, and Enhance. With the Phase 4 release, so came a Signet of Primal Wrath. Best in slot for literally everybody with stats everybody wants. Feral actually gets the most benefit here at 0.53%. Enhanced due to the strength of Band of the Ranger General, and Ret due to every ring they could use being incredibly close. They get the least benefit of the group. Obviously, the only class that uses a ranged weapon to actually damage is a Hunter, so it's no surprise their best in the slot is uncontested. The competition comes when you start to use it as a stat stick. It's not terribly difficult to get. It drops off the last boss in ZA, which is only a 3-day reset for a 10-man raid. Worthwhile to get as a warrior, especially Fury, 0.35% DPS increase over your next boss option. It can safely be ignored as a rogue if you have the Arcanite Steam Pistol from Phase 2. I'm not sure why I added Warp Stream Coil to this list, because it's obviously uncontested, but hey, whatever. Feral Druid is also the one class that will likely not want to replace Tsunami Talisman. This has been done to death since Classic TBC was announced, but here it is, adjusted for a Phase 4 Bisque gear setup, and this is how it shakes down. Note that I did not include Badges of Swarm Guard for comparison here. That trinket value varies wildly on the encounter duration and boss armor table. DST has certainly jumped ahead in how useful it is for rogues. They used to be neck and neck with Fury Warriors, which still come in second. It's just an all-around amazing trinket. The only classes that are close to replacing it are Enhancement Shaman and Hunters. New in Phase 3, Madness the Betrayer gives you an armor pen proc and makes it ideal for warriors. Fury gets a significant bump at 0.47% DPS increase. I also left Badge out for comparison here too, by the way. For most short encounters, it should be used over Madness in conjunction with DST. The big surprise here was Feral, as Tsunami Talisman and Berserker's Call with an optimized gear setup came a few DPS ahead of Madness against the high armor target. New in Phase 4, Berserker's Call is a high value on-use attack power trinket, essentially an upgraded Bloodlust Brooch, very, very good for Hunters. 0.5% DPS increase over the second BIS option, with Ret coming in second, and then Feral. Fortunately for all specs that use two-handers, you all have your own weapon. None of them are contested. Hope you've had good luck with these. Mostly the same for classes that use one-handers. The Hunter stat sticks and Enhanced Maces are uncontested between the classes. Enhanced may use the PvP weapons if you're an orc, but you're not competing against drops with anybody else for them. Of course, that still leaves two more specs that most definitely are contested. Warglaives. This topic has been beaten to death already, but I'm going to revisit it. Reminder that this was simmed as a purely single target over 3 minutes against a high armor boss. So it doesn't take into account trash damage or overall raid damage if you're speed clearing, and doesn't sim any council fights or anything of the sort. Besides, these should probably go to your dedicated long-time raid members, as opposed to just optimizing it out of somebody's bags. Anyway, starting with the main hand clave, this doesn't include the pairing bonus. It's a significantly bigger upgrade for rogues and Fury Warriors. The Vengeful Gladiator Slicer is a very good alternative for warriors just based on individual item stats. The same goes for the offhand. It's technically a DPS loss for warriors, and a 0.68% DPS upgrade for rogues. Let's get to the bonuses. So having both gives you a proc chance of 450 haste rating for 10 seconds. Very good. A whopping 4.65% for rogues and 3.34% for Fury. Both are very good, but rogues gain a bit more from haste rating than warriors do. The set bonus also gives 200 attack power when fighting demons. While these sims were done on a humanoid, I changed it to demon to show how much this is worth exactly, and this is where Fury shines at a 4.08 DPS increase as opposed to 1.78% for rogues. The reason this is, rogues have a talent card called Murder that gives them bonus damage against humanoids, giants, beasts, and dragonkin. They lose that bonus fighting a demon, but gain the glaive bonus. And here it is all added up, including the demon bonus. Over the second BIS option, upgrading to a set of glaives is an incredible 10.26% DPS upgrade for rogues and 7.48% for warriors on single target encounters. And that's it. That covers all the item slots and all the contested best in slot items at the end of Phase 4. I hope you enjoyed watching and hopefully learning a new thing or two about your class, the class your friends play, and how to gear them. If you have any questions, please drop them down in the comments or come watch me on Twitch and ask me there while I hopefully kill more of these bosses, do lots of damage, and get some more of these items in there to drop. Thanks, guys.